I'm Andy. I live in Frederick, Maryland. I work as a community life assistance coach for an organization called The Arc that helps people with disabilities. I go to school. I'm studying music therapy. And my path of service at the moment is mostly, I would say, devotionals. And I tutor. I play a lot of music. The tie of servitude established between the worshiper and the adored one should in itself be regarded as a token of his gracious favor unto men, and not as an indication. I was born in San Carlos, Florida in 1995. Only lived there for 4 or 5 years before my family moved up to the Detroit area, where I lived for up until I was 18. I have one sibling, one sister, and she's maybe about 10 years older than I am. We were really adventurous. My mom was a professor at a college in Michigan, which allowed her the opportunity to go and teach internationally a lot. So I got to go to places like France and China and South Korea, all at a pretty young age, which really is, a pretty huge opportunity. I remember China a lot, and I was maybe 11 years old at that time, so I don't remember the important details. I remember being blown away by how much fast food was available, how easy it was to get KFC in China. Or we went to this ancient temple, thousands of years old, and they had built a Starbucks inside of the temple. I remember that was funny, and one thing was seeing all the ancient Buddhist temples, because as I learned everything from there, that was the same stuff as I had learned when I had went to Bible camp. We did a lot of scuba diving. That was a big thing. I think one of my favorite memories of scuba diving was Catalina Island in California. That was really nice. And I remember we were down there and we got a bag of frozen vegetables because that's what they said the fishes ate. And so we dived down there with a bag of frozen vegetables and we are trying to give them out, one by one and feed the fish. I remember just a huge swarm of fish coming down and they ripped open the bag and got all the vegetables out of there and were biting us and stuff. So that's a good one. But we lost my mom in a scuba diving accident when I was 12 years old. My sister had already moved out of the house. She was in college at the time. So it was just me and my dad from there on out. School was a challenge. It's not that I wasn't smart. There were certainly some things that I struggled with, I think, more than the average student. But I was lazy. I just didn't care. I hardly ever did homework. I was that kid. I would have a D in every class, but then when it was time to actually go take the test, I could go in and spit back out the information. Other than in band and music classes, I definitely shined there because I enjoyed it and it could get me to show up and practice. I don't remember exactly. We were at a local show, so it was we were seeing our friends and stuff, and just somebody started smoking weed and asked me if I wanted some, and I said yeah, sure, and it was kind of all history from there, I tried college for a year, but in middle school and high school, I had started getting into drugs and alcohol. And so by the time I got to college, I really just I was not functioning academically. I think that my entire freshman year of college,
my sole focus was drinking and using drugs, and I show up for class every once in a while, but really didn't do well and ended up dropping out pretty quickly. It got pretty wild and dramatic. I had trouble holding jobs, and just kind of did what it took to survive and get through day to day. I started a band, and that was my primary focus, but we really weren't going anywhere. And again, with the drug use and the dishonesty, a lot of my focus was who could I lie to, who could I cheat, where could I steal money. A lot of practices like that to get drugs and occasionally eat some food. So then what happened was I wound up in a hospital, in a psychiatric facility, and my dad had just moved to Maryland. He worked at McDaniel College and told me since he worked there, I could go there to college for free. And so I took that offer and I moved out to Carroll County, tried to go to McDaniel. And since I had just got out of the hospital, like in my mind, I was gonna stay clean and actually be successful. And I had one fairly successful semester. I got, B's and C's, which for me is, a gold medal. I've never had done as well as I did that semester. But then after the first semester back, I started drinking and using drugs again. Wound up in the hospital again. My mental state was really frazzled. I was like hearing voices and all that and seeing stuff. I had really kind of fried my skull. When I was at college at McDaniel for my second semester there, I was in a class called Religion and American Law. And we were studying a case about these people in California who had been using their home for religious gatherings. And the neighbors in the homeowners association were trying to complain to the city council and saying, they have 30 people in there every single week singing songs and reading scriptures, and they're running a church out of their house, and they can't do that. And the court, they appealed through the Religious Land Use and Incarcerated Persons Act that said, no, you can hold whatever religious gatherings you want to in your house. The court is powerless in that situation. So I'm reading about this case, and I see this word in there that I'd never seen before. And that word was Baha'i. And I remember just instantly being fascinated by this word because it was the thing that stuck out to me was the apostrophe. That was so weird. I'd never seen that before, an apostrophe in between an A and an I. This word captivated me. And we didn't need to know what that word meant. All we needed to know was the details of the case. But, this word was so fascinating, so I went and typed in what it meant on Google and looked it up, and I said, oh, cool. That sounds fun. I ended up putting my phone number in the request more information. And this was the point where I was really revving up my consumption selling drugs too, which that was getting really dark and really brutal, and anybody could either be a cop that wants to arrest you or somebody that wants to rob you or rip you off. I didn't trust any part of the world at that point. It was very dark. I was disconnected, isolated. I was living in an apartment, and this apartment was bad. I literally had got evicted from the apartment just for how dirty it was. You know, I wasn't taking care of myself, and it was needles and broken bottles all over the whole thing. And I kept on getting calls for bills that were past due for the apartment. The water company called and asked where their money was, and I told them, whatever, I'll get it. And then the electric company calls and asks where their money is, and I tell them I'll get it. The landlord calls, where's my money? You'll get it. And then I get the fourth call from an unknown number in an hour. And I answered it, and they said, is this Andrew Tyler? And I shouted, who wants to know? And I said it was a little more explicit than that. And this woman on the other end of the line like gets really kind of shy and startled, and she goes, oh, I'm sorry, I'm reaching out because you had requested more information about the Baha'i faith. So that was the first thing I ever said to somebody that was a Baha'i that I had known about as being a Baha'i, at this stranger on the phone. And she was still being polite. She still wanted to talk to me. And, you know, I was very apologetic, but I just remember being blown away that 5 minutes after that's the first thing I said to her, and she's asking me to come over to her house and she'll give me a cup of coffee and we can talk about the faith. And that was the first thing to me, was the complete, absolute lack of judgment that she had shown was so compelling and so meaningful to me that, of course, I wanted to learn more. And that's when I met Serena and Anis and Jude. And yeah, they sat down and they gave me honest presentation, and there was not a moment that I doubted any of it. It all made perfect sense. Everything that they were saying to me felt like a lot of the same stuff that I already believed. I remember also in an honest presentation that says you're not supposed to drink alcohol. And I remember right there, I was like, okay, so this might not be the thing for me, because I don't really know how to survive without that quite yet. I remember I was real timid to let them see that I had tattoos. I was worried they would judge me about that, because I remember once when I was little, I was at a Sunday school at my grandma's church, and I asked the Sunday school teacher, I said, if you get a tattoo, then when you die and you go to heaven, you still have the tattoo in heaven. And the Sunday school teacher looks at me and goes, you can't get into heaven if you have tattoos. And obviously I didn't listen to that. But in my mind, I have come to just associate religion with judgment. And so I was hiding them and afraid for them to see it. And they really didn't care. Like, just the absolute lack of judgment. They were okay with interrupting honest presentations so that I could go outside and smoke a cigarette. You know, they were just so patient and so loving and understanding with me. And that's when they invited me to book one. And book one was really the same experience. They were just so patient with me and so loving. No matter what I said, no matter what I did, I would argue and say things that were in direct contradiction with the writings, and they would very peacefully and politely explain, well, this is, you know, why the writings kind of say this. This is the perspective we're coming from, but never telling me I was wrong. I remember Anis told me a story about Abdul Baha and said, what does this story mean to you? And I told him, you know, what I thought about the story. And he said, oh, interesting. I had never thought about it like that. And I said, well, wait, what does it mean to you? Like, what's the real answer? And he goes, no, your answer works great. You know, you have it, you understand. That level of like independent investigation of truth, I knew I wanted it, but it still made me uncomfortable. Because growing up in a Christian family, you go to the priest. The priest says, oh no, this part of the Bible means this. This is what they're talking about here. This is what you're supposed to get from it. Okay, cool. Walk away. And that I actually had to rely on my own piecing together different writings to come to conclusions. And that it required sincere personal prayer and meditation regarding the writings. I wasn't ready for that. Like I said, they always told me to bring a guitar, which certainly made me feel useful. But I certainly wasn't ready to declare at that point. In part because the laws regarding drugs and alcohol, and I definitely wasn't interested in that. And I was in the process of moving in with my girlfriend at the time, and I knew I wasn't supposed to do that if I declared. That girlfriend at the time ended up telling me I had to stop going to the study circles. And I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? And I left. I stopped going to the study circles and just continued living this really dark, isolated lifestyle, which was really just getting worse and worse. That girlfriend was really not good for me. But, I had a low enough self-esteem that I needed other people to tell me who I was. And so when she told me I was a loser, I believed her, and I'm not going to do any better. I might as well sit here and rot away. We lived across the street from the casino. I was gambling a lot. And there was about, almost a year where I didn't make a single dollar legally or legitimately. It was all from different criminal activities I was involved in. And one night, as I had just made like a large transaction and sold a large amount of drugs, and was gonna cut through the casino parking lot to get back to our apartment. And I was like, I'll go into the casino and I'll go in there and, play a round or two. And the next thing I knew, I had lost all the thousands of dollars I had just made off of this brick. I was just so broken because what was I going to do? I had just lost all of this money. I needed that for rent and food and stuff. And so I remember just laying down on this bench and just kind of looking up at the sky. I was just so broken because what was I going to do? I had just lost all of this money. I needed that for rent and food and stuff. I remember just laying down on this bench and just kind of looking up at the sky. But there, it was nighttime and I see all the stars. And there was this kind of, maybe just because I was drunk, but this hazy dust in the sky. And that reminded me, because even all this time after I had dropped out of book 1, a niece was still occasionally texting me quotes. And this dust made me think of, O son of dust, verily I say unto thee, no man is as negligent as he who disputeth idly and seeketh to advance himself over his brother.
I say unto thee, of all men most negligent is he who disputeth thatly and seeketh to advance himself over his brother. Say, O brethren, when deeds and not words be your adorning. Say, O brethren, when deeds and not words be your adorning. I just started crying. That quote popped into my head and I just started crying because I realized that's what I was doing. I was, disputing idly. Yeah, I'd fight with you about anything. You could tell me the sky was blue and I'd argue with you that it was pink. Seeking to advance myself over my brother, of course I was. I had these grandiose fantasies about being rich and being a huge rock star and selling large quantities of drugs so I could be a millionaire and not caring who I took down in the process. Everything I was doing was selfish, and I understood that, and that word negligent is what really struck me, because I realized how much I was wasting. I understood that I was not doing what I was here to do. I realized that all these talents that I had, all this capacity and capability that I had was fading. And, it just made me cry. And so the next night, I went back to a niece and Serena and Jude's house. And I knocked on the door, and I was ragged. I hadn't showered in days. I was probably wearing unclean clothes with holes in them. I was not in good shape at all. And I knocked on their door, and I was like, guys, I need help. Like, this is not working. I can't live how I've been living. Which, at this point had been almost 10 years of that lifestyle. I really didn't know anything else, but I knew that they had what I wanted. I knew that they weren't waking up every morning thinking, man, what do how am I gonna survive today? And I knew that they didn't sit there wondering, like, what do I do to fill all this time between now and when I die? All these huge, brutal questions that were causing me such severe depression. I knew that they understood what the answers were, and I wanted to be like that. And so I asked them, I need help. What do I do? They took me to a devotional that same night. And everyone was excited to see me, and I remember thinking that, like, it's weird that everyone's excited to see me. Usually when you cut people off with no word and you don't say anything and you just walk away and blow them off like that, they're not happy that you show up unannounced. And they certainly don't give you free food, but they were doing that. They were giving me food. And it's funny, I remember Serena said, she's like, wow, you've lost a lot of weight. You got to tell me your secret. I was like, yeah, the secret's smoking crack. Like, that's how you lose this much weight that fast. I don't know what else to tell you. But, they immediately welcomed me back in. The very next day after that, they said, hey, we have children's class. We're cleaning up at the elementary school and picking up and doing some gardening. Bring a guitar. And I did. And just that immediate welcome back meant
so much to me. And so when I went back and told my girlfriend at the time that I wasn't going to sell drugs anymore, that I couldn't do that, she got really mad, because I was making more money doing that than I was going to make at any job I was going to get. And so she was furious and told me I either had to sell drugs or leave the house, or leave the apartment. And I left. I went back to Anissa and Serena and Jude. I said, guys, I've been crashing in my car for a couple of nights. Do you guys have a bed? And they welcomed me in. They brought me in, and the whole Baha'i community really banded together to help me out. Glenn and Nassim in their house were hosting all the children's classes and JY groups and all that. And I was there at their house every single day, helping in any way I could, trying to finally get through and finish book 1. They were making sure that I had food to eat. I had finally landed a job at Target. Another Baha'i had her daughter give me a haircut so that I could be working and all of that stuff. They were all really banding together to help me try and get my life on track. But I hadn't dealt with and processed some of the things in the right way that I needed to, so I still didn't manage to stay clean for more than a few months after that. So eventually I wound up in the hospital again. And, in the hospital again, they were just all coming together to help me. They brought me books to read. They brought me, and one of them was Fire and Gold. I can't remember who the author of that one was, but I probably read it 4 times in that hospital stay. I just couldn't tear myself away from it. That book meant so much and helped me understand what I needed to be and what I could use all these negative experiences and all these mistakes, and how I could take that and turn it into a positive. And so I started doing that, and I was in the hospital for a while, which was pretty severe. Usually people don't have to stay in the hospital that long to detox, but I did. And then I went to a rehab program for 30 days. And after I got out of there, I tried living in Northern Virginia for a while, connected briefly with the Baha'i community, but ultimately realized that Frederick was really my place. These people had become more of my family than anybody else, other than my actual family. But my actual family was so spread out. My sister lives in upstate New York. My dad's on a boat and just sails around. He'll be in a different state every few weeks or so if he wants to. But Frederick was where I had family. I had people who could help me out and take care of me. While I was still with niece and Serena and Jude. And at the time I had been clean for 2 weeks, which was unfathomable. I hadn't done that since I was 12. So, and I felt so good serving. And like I said, it took away those brutal existential questions. I understood, like, what do I do with all this time between now and when I die? I serve, I help the world, I help other people. I strengthen myself spiritually, and I learn and I read and I take in all this information, and I say a lot of prayers, and I make music, and just feeling that and understanding that. And like I said, I had known the whole time that what they were telling me was correct. I never doubted that Baha'u'llah was a manifestation for this day. I never doubted that the writings had power. And I never doubted that the world order of Baha'u'llah was going to happen exactly how they said it would. I just always knew that was true. I just couldn't bring myself to do the personal things. And once I did, once I was staying with them and I had some motivation to continue in the personal growth and follow the laws, I just asked them, and I thought it was going to be like, a bigger thing. And they were just like, no, you just fill out this card and there you go. And I did it. And then they gave me some books and made me a nice breakfast, and it was a good day, That was July 12th, 2019 that I declared. I'm in college right now, taking a real fun class about the anatomy of your ears, which, is cool. I'm actually succeeding in doing my homework and keeping up, which never thought I would be able to do, Now I live in a Baha'i household with other Baha'is. All my best friends are Baha'is. Whenever I need somebody to talk to, first people I call are generally Baha'is. It's just a much more service-centric life, which I appreciate that. It prevents me from getting bored, keeps me focused, gives me motivation. Back to Frederick and I needed a job, I remember I prayed that I could get a job that would help people. That was all I said. I said, God, whatever I do that's like good for somebody else, that's what I want to do. And that very same day, I get an email from whatever job hunting site, Indeed or whatever I was using, that said, we need community life assistants at this organization. I didn't realize that when you apply to a job through Indeed, it gives them the same email that your account is on. So my email address was angryfolksinger@gmail.com, which isn't a good first impression on a resume. But my boss glossed over that, and I remember showing up to the interview and being like, hey, please don't call my past employers for reference. Just trust me, I'm gonna be okay. And she was looking at my history and was like, oh, you get your license suspended every few years, and looking at so you have a pot possession charge on your record here, all these things that I shouldn't have got the job, and I got the job. And when I talked to her about it the other day, I asked, I'm like, really, why did you hire me? And she's like, I just had a hunch. I just got a feeling. And I know that that's confirmation. That's God. He was like, no, you're gonna give Andy that job. And so now my motivation for school and my motivation for working is, hey, I can do good stuff. I can make people's lives a little tiny bit better. It makes life a lot easier when you have a sense of doing good things for good reasons. Yeah, when I told my dad I was gonna be a Baha'i, he said, do Baha'is drink alcohol? And I said no. And he said, do Baha'is smoke dope? And I said no. And he said, okay, good, go be that. He's been really supportive. I would say my whole immediate family has. Certainly some of my extended family is convinced that I've been brainwashed by some kind of cult. But I think that the personal transformation alone speaks for itself. And then as a Baha'i, I'm not saying I'm perfect or I follow the laws to a T every single day. But I'm certainly a lot better than I was before. It doesn't matter wherever you've been in the past, because as long as you look for truth and for unity with your whole heart, then the answer comes to you like a breeze.